I want to talk to you for a moment about the need to protect your assets. We all have assets, and some are more important than others. Some we hold very dear to our hearts, and others we could live without. But I want to talk to you about one particular asset that you and I both share that's of high value to me, and hopefully will be of high value to you as well. The founders of the United States of America were keenly aware that unchecked power could become tyrannical. Therefore, they wisely wrote the nation passed 10 amendments to the Constitution protecting certain assets that people like us held dear then and still hold dear to our hearts today. The first amendment to the Constitution of the United States prevents the government from making laws which regulate the establishment of religion, prohibit the free exercise of religion, or abridge the freedom of speech or the freedom of the press, and the right to assemble peaceably, or the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. And this was adopted by the people on December 15th, 1791, as the first of 10 amendments to the Constitution. Now listen to me. Unchecked power can take away your religious liberty. And let me give you an example. In World War II in Nazi Germany, there was a Lutheran pastor. His name was Frederick Gustav Emil Martin Neumüller. He was born in 1892. He was a German theologian and Lutheran pastor, and he's best known for his opposition to the Nazi regime during the late part of the Nazi rise to power. He was a national conservative and initially supporter of Hitler, because Hitler said he was going to leave the churches alone. But Hitler reneged on this promise and began to persecute the churches, both Catholic and Protestant, as he did many other things. So Niemöller became one of the founders of what that was called the Confessing Church, which opposed the Nazification of Germany, and especially the Protestant churches. He worked hard to keep that theology or philosophy out of the church. He vehemently opposed the Nazi regime. And for his opposition to the Nazi state control of the churches, Niemöller was imprisoned in Sachsenhausen first and later in Dachau concentration camps, both from 1938 to 1945. And he narrowly escaped execution in those camps. And after his imprisonment, he had expressed a deep regret about how he supported what he thought was going to be a regime that was going to be supportive of the churches. And he tried to help the victims of the Nazi regime after the war. And he eventually became a very strong pacifist. And he was always against nuclear warfare. And he drafted a paper called the Stuttgart Declaration of Guilt, which confessed the sins of the German people and Nazism and offered that to the world. And following World War II, Niemöller is noted for this famous quote that I'm going to share with you right now. And it's important for you to hear this, even today. He said, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." This man spent 8 years in prison, in a concentration camp, because he spoke out against the Nazi tyranny of the time. My friends, we should not take lightly the liberties afforded us under the Constitution. They're here today, but potentially could be at risk if we don't stand up for what we believe to be true. We must remain vigilant. We must be aware of the surroundings and listen to the political winds that are blowing to see if any way these are being jeopardized by anyone. We do not want to wake up one day and say our religious liberty is gone, stolen by a government mandate or decree for the good of the community. Let me say this about radicals. They are focused, they are convicted, and they'll do all they can to have their way. They are focused and will not detour. Listen, I think too many people in our country are asleep at the switch. we just take for granted so much, and we're not sensitive to what's being said, and we just hear what we hear and absorb it and go on about our life. Listen, we have to understand that we have to be vigilant. If you hear or see something that threatens your religious freedom in any way, regardless of how subtle it may sound, speak out. Be heard. Take a stand. For if you don't, who will? Do you really want to be the last person standing like Muller? I don't think so. I'm not saying that we're under threat right now, but listen, our freedoms are only as sacred and protected as the people allow them to be. If you value the religious freedom afforded you under the Constitution of the United States, then it behooves you to be on guard and to be aware and to be alert and to make sure that we all can continue to exercise this freedom that we have under this Constitution. Amen? And all God's people said amen. Look, I'm just sharing this with you as food for thought because I have a concern for you and myself in relationship to my ability to worship the God that I love and care about, the God that you love and care about too. If you want to reach out to me, hit the comment button, send me a comment, I'll respond. If you want to go to my website, paulteskaministries.com, hit the prayer button. You can share your prayer requests or concerns there, and I'll get back to you. I'm continuing to receive a flood of prayer requests and comments, and I pray over and entertain them all and respond to them myself. So until the next time, go in peace and serve the Lord. Amen? And all God's people said, amen.